Hello and welcome to the Merle Unlocked podcast. I'm Merle.
And I'm Locke.
Set sail and low expectations for everything nerd, accompanied by a healthy, albeit shameful, helping to pointless banter, lack of focus, and questionably acquired knowledge.
And more.
And more. I think we need to talk about some recent forays in gaming that we've had. It's a game that's been out for quite some time, but it's still very popular, called Dead by Daylight. If no one's familiar with this game, Google it. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's it. Just Google it. Anyway, Google it. New topic.
No, it's a horror game.
Asymmetrical horror.
Where you have a group of 5 people, you have 4 survivors and 1 horror monster, also known as the killer. The horror monster takes all kinds of different forms, like some that are widely known, such as Freddy Krueger and Chucky,
Ghostface,
Hellraiser, lots of different things, yeah? The survivors, they are teamed up together and they have to activate repair all of these generators. I think it's 5 generators to start. Once all 5 are repaired, that gives you access to the doors, in which you open up the doors to the level and you can escape the killer. And obviously the killer, his only goal is to take out all the survivors.
To stop generator progress, to kill off survivors, scare them. Depends on the playstyle, but yeah.
Depends on the person. I mean, there's freedom to do many things, but the main objective is to keep survivors from repairing the generators and to kill them all off. I myself, I hadn't played this game for a while. It's been a while simply because there's a lot of toxicity, admittedly, here and there. We got to a point where we were playing all the time and we were having fun, but half the time was spent being kind of angry at whoever was playing the killer if they weren't being a good sport. Tunneling, which is like when you're the killer and you're trying to take out a survivor, you have to put them up on these hooks. There's 3 different phases of being hooked, and if you reach the 3rd phase, you're out of the game. And sometimes killers, not often, but sometimes killers will decide that they're going to tunnel one person and take them out of the game right away so that they don't have a chance to play the rest of the match, which makes it easier on the killer because it's less for them to go back and forth with and try to mitigate progress. But at the same time, it's considered poor sportsmanship. So it's commonly known when it comes to the killer, their main goal should be like to distribute evenly amongst the survivors, make sure everybody has a good chance to play the game. It's not written in stone necessarily. It's just a commonly known courtesy amongst players of DBD. And we were running into a lot of toxicity, also a lot of people that were just absurdly good at the game, and it would just put a damper on our nights, right? Playing that game. And so I stopped playing it. And I was like, it's a fun game, but I find myself getting frustrated a lot with playing it. And that's not what I want to deal with when I'm playing video games. I don't want to be frustrated while playing video games because it's supposed to be just a fun hobby, right? I stepped away, but just recently, you, Locke, started playing again with another one of our good friends. You would scurry off with him during the weekend and play games with him. I thought it was a phase. I was like, let's let that run it out. I'm sure they'll get frustrated with it soon enough, and then they'll stop playing, and we can start playing some different games, some games that I'd be more into. But every weekend, you were playing this game with him. To the point I was like, I was like, screw it. I'll jump in again.
You surprised me with it because you message and you go, I want play. And I go, oh, okay.
Yeah, so they were having this event going on, and an event it's been happening every now and again.
Yeah, this is at least its 2nd occurrence.
They do this event where it's 8 survivors versus 2 killers. That's a lot to deal with right there. But I thought that sounded pretty interesting. I was like, you know what? I'll give it a go. let's have at it. We got a big group of people together and we played that event. I had a blast. I had a lot of fun playing that game mode. It got me back into it after the event was over. I started playing just the regular 4v1 modes as well with you guys. I've been enjoying it a lot. You got the hooks back in me again.
Well put, well put.
I've been getting back into it and it's been a lot of fun. And I know we haven't talked about this game in a long time because I think the first time we talked about it,
I had so much aggression toward it still.
I feel like it was like our first podcast episode we talked about Dead by Daylight. A couple episodes we talked about it because it was just a big thing a couple years ago for us because we played so much of it. And now we're kind of bringing it back. I mean, I don't feel like this game ever really lost popularity completely because there's a lot of Twitch streamers that are playing this game constantly.
Too many. But that's besides the point.
I was playing with a friend recently. We were playing Phasmophobia. One of his buddies jumped in and started talking about Dead by Daylight. He's like, yeah, I'm a Twitch streamer and I stream Dead by Daylight a lot and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, I didn't know many people still played it, and I checked it out. Oh, I didn't check out his stream. I didn't even ask him about it because, kind of uninterested. But at the same time, I was like, you know what? If people are still into it, and a couple of my friends are still into it, why not just jump right back into it? But I want to hear, as far as Dead by Daylight goes, I want to hear what your common favorite things are about it or frustrations and what have you, and what essentially got you back into it.
There's many frustrations. It's between either a survivor teammate that's not helping you. We came across some matches where two survivors clearly survived with friends because they were spending a lot of time near each other. They only made sure that each other were okay. They never checked on any other survivor. They said, screw those guys. And that's not really the way to make it out of a match because you want to work together as a team of four. Now in the 2v8, it's not as reliant on everybody. You don't need to know what you're doing. Really, you could just kind of wing it, get generators done as much as you can. You don't have to loop the killers because God knows that the killers are going to team up and get you anyways. If one killer can't get you, they're going to be like, we need to.
I didn't even consider, do you think that you're able to queue up with a buddy for the killer position?
Yes, you can.
Oh, you can. Oh, that's dangerous right there.
Yeah, the killers can be in comms. They can be like, hey, I got 4 survivors over here, and depending on who you are, you can just start outing people left and right. And the killer's perk were set that if they worked together and they worked side by side, they were strongest, as opposed to being far apart from one another. So it really did rely on killers working side by side, which put a damper on some of the survivor aspect of gameplay, because you could not do anything. If you had 2 killers on you, your cheeks were clapped. That was it. End of the game.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, like coming back to it and doing that game mode, because there's like this underlying level of anxiety, right, with that game, where you need to perform well because, your team is split between 4 people. And if you don't pull your weight, it's going to be very difficult times. But when it was 8 people, man, I felt like the part in which I was playing was so minuscule that there was 0 pressure on me whatsoever. And I felt like most of the time I wasn't even dealing with the killers because they were off chasing whoever. I just, play more stealthy and do things kind of behind the scenes. And man, I was just cruising most of the time. Also, the fact that I had some of that in-game currency left over, and I was able to buy Nicolas Cage.
Oh, right.
That was so fun playing that because every time I would pull somebody, one of you guys from a hook, or I'd come and patch you up or something like that, you guys would always be like, oh, look, it's the famous Hollywood actor Nicolas Cage or something like that. And like just doing the quotes back and forth, just creating this little, all these funny moments sprinkled in between those matches. It just made it such a good time. And I wish that was like a permanent feature, the whole 2v8 thing. I mean, I understand that it's not, because I feel like filling those servers might become difficult in future.
Well, yeah. I mean, load times are already ridiculous.
No, I understand why they don't have that as a permanent feature. And if it's in a short time frame in which they do it, everybody comes back for that event and fills up those queue times really quickly. I don't know how often they do it. I hope they do it more often, because, God, that was so much fun.
I mean, they do events for holidays, like Christmas. I think probably about the 13th is when their Christmas little special happens, where people get to jump inside a snowman, walk around, try to be sleuthy, which is a fun little event. I enjoyed that. Halloween, of course, they have their own event. I mean, it makes sense, right? Horror game, Halloween. Yeah. I would like to see, at the very least, them initiate or bring the 2v8 to a custom game. That way you can use that in a custom game if you have
that many friends.
I know, it's crazy to think that we might have that many friends. Just get them all in a custom game. Just kind of swap around 2 killers. It would definitely be a way for somebody to help teach another killer.
That'd be a great little learning experience. Absolutely. We played a custom game recently. We had an absolute ball with it. I had a lot of fun with it. I don't play the killer often. When I was playing it, I was having a rough time at first, but I was starting to get the hang of things. And even though you guys were taking it really easy on me and we were just mostly jokes the whole time.
Right.
But I was starting to get the hang of things. I was really enjoying myself, because I remember the one time I tried doing it in a public match, I just got pooped on. That was tough. I was like, I can't keep up with these people. Like, I don't know how they do it. And it's so difficult. Well, it gives me like a whole new perspective on people playing the killer and what they have to deal with. But some of them are just way too over practiced to the point where it's not even fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the ranking system is still so messed up from the last time that they changed things to this random number, this invisible number that we can't see. And they're like, this is how you guys will be ranked from now on. And I'm like, it's broken. Before, I used to be able to get a variety of matches. I used to be able to get some matches that were really good, really fun. Granted, the killer might still be new, but I'm not going to be an asshole to that killer. I'm not going to be out here flashlight saving the whole entire time, which is, a way that you could play Survivor, is just be an obnoxious prick the whole time to the killer. You do you. That's not how I enjoy to play every single time I play. I don't feel like being absolutely sweaty. I just want to enjoy it and have everyone enjoy it.
I thought it was a lot of fun when we were doing our custom match. You were playing the killer first.
Which, yeah, a lot of people were already in, and by a lot of people, I mean Jane Doe, did not agree with that statement.
But I thought that was a lot of fun, and I liked that you were such a good sport about it. It was mostly jokes. It has the potential to be so lighthearted and fun and exciting for everyone. Freak everyone out every now and again. Get a couple, jump scares popping out at folk. You don't have to just go for the win. You just go for a good time. But I realize, the nature of online gaming, very competitive.
It's just a little ridiculous, right? I mean, we're not in esports, for crying out loud. I feel like we need to relax a little bit.
Well, you say that, but most of the time, I feel like there's so many of these quote unquote Twitch streamers and whatnot trying to impress people and bring people to their channels and whatnot, and they just go ham
I already told you the story of what happened, but I'm going to say it again anyway. Who needs Twitch streaming when you got kids outside your window watching you play DVD?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that was a pretty funny story. Yeah, why don't you tell us about that?
So I had my window open, and this is kind of late at night. And I was told by Jane Doe, who just got to the house, that there were some kids that just like stopped out in the street and they were like looking in the window and they're like, whoa, it's DVD. And I was like, well, that's a little odd, right? That you're staring into other people's houses. I get that I got a big ass TV and you're watching it from the street. I mean, it's kind of hard not to notice it. They honed into it. She said they watched it for a little while and they're like, wow.
Because I grew up in a little town. The whole concept of looking into somebody's window, instantly thought I was going to get shot or something.
Yeah.
That was always in the back of my mind, especially going around the streets late at night with a bunch of buddies and whatnot, skateboarding and smoking, doing the whole graffiti thing every now and again. Not the most behaved of children, but it was all mostly harmless stuff that we would get into. And just the thought of going onto somebody's property or looking in their windows, that was just, that was too far.
Yeah, no, it like reminds me of some horror movies or even some Goosebumps episodes of like a kid looking in a window and all of a sudden the villain shows up with like one eye kind of partially closed and they're like, what are you doing out there?
What are you doing out there?
Oh God, he's gonna chop me up and put me in a stew. That's what's gonna happen.
Maybe that's what the issue is. We don't have goosebumps anymore. Scare children from like looking into people's homes and stuff.
We need some Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark? That's what we need. The tale of the kid who looked into a stranger's window. Sprinkle the dust onto the fire.
In this new year, 2025, we need to have more ways of horrifying children into not trespassing or getting into other people's business because it always ends poorly.
That's right. So terrify your kids, they'll always stay in the house.
There you go.
That's the way to go.
Lock them up. Keep them in the home.
Keep them in
Can't
the
be
basement.
trusted.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a bad message. I don't know if that's...
Thank you for joining us on the Merle and Locke podcast. If you enjoyed this banter, please consider becoming a patron by going to patreon.com/Merle and Locke, or simply follow the link in the description. Thank you.